Fights, insults, political conflicts, conflicts of interest, and ego. This is the current scenario surrounding the return of the Americans to the moon. After all, is the lunar starship delayed or not? The Artemis program, as you already know, is divided into several missions. The third mission is where the astronauts' landing will take place. Mission 1 was characterized by the validation of the SLS rocket and the Orion capsule, which orbited the moon without a crew. The second mission will have 3 astronauts also orbiting the moon, but without landing. This mission is scheduled to happen no earlier than April 2026, but what is heating up behind the scenes at NASA is the Artemis 3 mission and beyond. And not that the others didn't have problems, quite the opposite. Well, NASA doesn't have the landing craft. They delegated this craft to the private sector, in this case, SpaceX and Blue Origin. SpaceX has to deliver the human landing system or Starship Lunar at some point in 2027, as this is the scheduled date for the Artemis 3 mission. The landing mission has already faced several delays and is expected to face another one. But in the other instances, NASA never directly mentioned SpaceX as being the reason, but this time it was different. High-ranking NASA officials say it is impossible for SpaceX to meet the deadline. However, the company said that everything requested so far has been delivered and that development is on schedule. But the words that caught my attention the most are the following, quote, "SpaceX is moving like lightning compared to the rest of the space industry. Houston says In addition, the Starship will eventually carry out the entire lunar mission. Mark my words. Amidst this conflict, we have Trump, who remains silent. And up to the moment this video is edited, Jared Isaacman also remains discreet. Behind the scenes, people say that Musk is quite frustrated with NASA. Even after everything SpaceX did in partnership with the agency, they didn't even fight for Jared to become administrator. With the opening of this new bidding, the question remains, who could develop a manned spacecraft in about 30 months that is reusable, cheap, and with a large cargo capacity? I believe the answer is no one. And even if there were, where is NASA going to get the money? Well, Sean Duffy believes this can happen. He has been in contact with several other companies competing with SpaceX, and perhaps the one that comes closest to this crazy plan is Blue Origin. For some months now, the company has been sharing its progress on the Blue Moon Mark 1. The idea circulating is that somehow, Blue Origin could adapt this lander to take a crew to the surface of the moon without relying on refueling. But this idea is crazy. The Blue Moon Mark 1 is a prototype and will test essential technologies for the future Blue Moon Mark 2. Among these tests are primarily the landing algorithm and the use of the B-7 engine. This prototype is slightly larger than the Apollo-era modules and can carry about 3 tons to any point on the moon. Its launch is scheduled for sometime next year aboard the New Glenn, and perhaps Sean Duffy believes that this test module could be adapted for a crew after this first mission, which is crazy. We don't even know if Blue Origin will succeed in this mission, let alone adapt it in a few months to accommodate a crew, an area where Blue Origin has no experience. This plan by Sean Duffy is not about permanence in creating a lunar base. It is merely about ego, where the United States does not want China to land before them, and it can be extremely dangerous for the astronauts. This shows us that the Artemis project was never something solid and convinced of American ambitions on the moon. Everything has been happening according to the wishes of those in power, and thus they are pushing the Artemis project forward with fits and starts. Leaving this political fight aside and this crazy plan of Sean Duffy, let's go to the original plan, the one that can really make human permanence on the moon with large bases. Recently, we had a new document detailing both the original plan of Blue Origin and the plans of SpaceX, so let's go to them. And if I make any mistakes, correct me in the comments. The link to the document will be in the description. First, let's start with Blue Origin. A New Glenn will launch the tug to low orbit, while the others, still without a defined number, will carry the fuel for this tug. Well, another New Glenn will launch the Blue Moon Mark II dry, meaning without fuel, as it will refuel in low orbit, docking with the tug. Once refueled, the Blue Moon Mark II performs the translunar injection maneuver and docks at the Gateway Station in lunar orbit, where it will conduct various checks. Parallel to this, the tug has to be refueled again, and there are more New Glenn launches. Once refueled again, it continues its journey, adopting a propellant-saving strategy. If all these phases go well, the Space Launch System then launches the Orion capsule, with the astronauts to also dock at the station. 2 astronauts transfer to the Blue Moon, which then makes its descent to the lunar surface. Once the mission is completed, the Blue Moon will take off and dock again at the Gateway Station. The astronauts transfer to the Orion capsule, which returns to Earth, while the Blue Moon is discarded or remains for future missions. SpaceX, unlike Blue Origin, has a profile, let's say, simpler. However, the ticking of the clock does not stop, and this year of 2026 will be crucial for the future of the Artemis missions. The document depicts the following scenario that many of you already know. A Super Heavy launches the depot into orbit, while other ships called Starship tankers carry the propellant and load this orbital depot. Once full, the Lunar Starship is launched and docks with it. It refuels and then continues its journey to lunar orbit. If all this happens nominally, the SLS launches the Orion capsule, which will dock with the Lunar Starship in lunar orbit. 2 astronauts make the transfer and descend to the surface. Just like in the mission with Blue Moon, the astronauts should stay on the lunar surface for about 6 days. After that, they take off and dock with the Orion capsule again, make the transfer, and return to Earth. As for the Lunar Starship, it will probably be discarded in this first mission. Notice that in this profile we are not considering the Gateway Station, as there is an agreement that it will not be operational before 2028. If it is operational before the Artemis 3 mission happens, the Lunar Starship will be docked to it, just like the Blue Moon flight profile. How delayed is the Lunar Starship really? Many people and even content creators say out there that nothing has been developed yet. So let's demystify that. December 21st, 2023, NASA astronauts Nicole and Doug participated in a test of the miniature elevator of the Lunar Starship, which will be used in NASA's Artemis 3 and 4 missions. February 28, 2024. The docking system tests on the Lunar Starship were conducted at NASA's Johnson Space Center over 10 days, using a system that simulates the contact dynamics between the 2 spacecraft in orbit. The tests included more than 200 docking scenarios with various approach angles and speeds. June 4, 2024, the CEO of Axiom Space, responsible for the lunar suit, said that the test conducted on April 30th of that year marked the first time astronauts in pressurized spacesuits interacted with the depressurization compartment and the elevator of a real test version of the Lunar Starship in Hawthorne, California. September 9th, 2024. After analysis and feedback from the astronauts, the module is taken to the starbase and has remained since then at the Star Factory. Contrary to what many people say, the spacecraft is being built, and I believe they are focusing initially on developing the most critical technologies, such as life support. Secondary hardware like landing legs, removal of flaps, integration of Super Draco engines, and docking systems are things the company can build in a few months. Continuous presence on the moon in the next decade depends on building large bases. It's not just another few-hour trip and planting a flag. The race now is for who will stabilize first and explore the best locations. And in the case of the Americans, The lunar starship is their best chance. Not having the world's main rocket launcher on your side doesn't seem like the smartest move in the end. Like if you made it to the end and become a member to support the creation of content like this.